And I'm certainly not putting my hand in the bag to eat something that you had your hand in.
I haven't been doing no dip for the last few days.
Exactly, the last few days.
Right, let's break the habit of a lifetime and try and start reasonably punctually for once.
It's filled up anyway.
Welcome everybody. It's great to see you all back here again, just to see you all face to face. It's just a few short of 800 days since we were last here to see Andrew's presentation. He travels around the UK, including Edinburgh, Sheffield, Liverpool. Days when you could just wander around freely and just go wherever you wanted with no restrictions. If only we knew what was coming after that. We went right through the whole of 2020 without any meetings, but in January I was asked to give a talk to sort of the UEC, Aycliffe and District Group, and sort of in conjunction with ourselves. That was online, seemed to work very well, encouraged us to do our own AGM online in the February of 21. At the end of March, Jeff Tattersall presented the first of what was going to be around nine or 10 online talks that we did. It seemed to go very well. We're getting 20, 30 people attending. It was great on one hand that you had the likes of Paul Bateson and people who just can't get to the meetings were able to join in, perhaps for the first time, some of them. Equally, of course, there's people who either haven't got the IT, they're not IT savvy, there's conflicts between them, and for whatever reason you can't get. So really good to be back here, and John's got the camera running there. Yep, John's got the camera running there. Welcome to anybody who's listening in online again. We're trying to get the best of both worlds. Hopefully we'll get better at it. We had a bit of a false start with the rallying last year. We got going in June and thought everything was going to be wonderful. We had 11 events planned. We did manage to complete 8 of them, one of which was in Rob Hughes's Leopard for an evening run out. But then we still had 106 off the road with a couple of relatively minor faults, but faults that put her off the road and we just couldn't bottom out. And then 223's rear airbag went bang, and that was the end of our rally season. Hopefully this year we've got a very ambitious season planned. Whether we're able to deliver it or not is another matter. We hope so. Touchwood 106 is all but sorted. 223 may be sorted tomorrow, but no thanks to Volvo's parts catalogue.
I have
Not
parts.
right, John?
I picked the parts up tonight. So.
We have the parts, so fingers crossed, everybody. On whether 223 is a runner or not depends whether we actually attend the Leyland National 50th anniversary this coming Sunday. We intend to, but we really need 223's long-leggedness to get us over there. Can all of you just keep an eye on the website and the Facebook page and spread the word amongst the people who haven't got that access? We'll let you know tomorrow how things have gone with that. 7th of May, Chris will, subject to getting a day off, Chris is taking the sales stand to the Model Bus Federation show at South Shields that we go to, or we used to go to every year. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we have done. We've been going every year for the last 20, apart from last year.
From COVID, yeah.
COVID.
The following weekend, the 14th, we're probably taking 99 over to Darlington to take part in the Aycliffe and District's recreation of routes in Darlington. And the following day is the Metro Centre Rally, the NEBPT's Metro Centre Rally. Have a week off after that, and then on Saturday the 28th, we're intending taking something to Philadelphia for the Northern National Restoration Group's open day there. And yours truly is probably going off to Washington with 106 for the providing transport for the UEC's AGM. Probably worth mentioning at this point the Tees Tyne run, which is on the 5th of June. After that, that'll be 9 o'clock departure from Stockton, but obviously we'll beef up the information on the website as we get nearer to the dates. I think after that we'll cover it all at the next meeting, which will be on the 31st of May, bank holiday. Speaker to be confirmed.
To be confirmed.
I
We
think.
might get a slideshow in German.
Well, yeah.
It's not a bank holiday. The Monday is the bank holiday.
Is it? Sorry, it's moved, hasn't it? Sorry.
It's on the Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, it's moved for the Jubilee, hasn't it? Thanks, Greg. Yeah, sorry, forgotten about that. And that's really about it. You haven't really bad enough. You're going to have to listen to Chris rabbiting on, which might be even worse, but who knows. The raffle, Chris?
Yep. Well, we resurrected the raffle, so we've got 4 prizes tonight, and we've got some raffle tickets. First prize,
It helps.
what is this? Leyland Tiger Cub, Edinburgh Corporation from Corgi. Then we have Yellowways Thornycroft Prehistoric Bus. Then we have the book on the LNAR Pacifics, which is always good. And then we have Cleveland Transit tie.
In its wrapper.
Not been issued, it's still in its wrapper, it's a collector's item.
There's
All
no
of
egg
us-
down the front of it.
You what?
No egg down the front of it, no.
No egg down the front of it.
It's lost value, really.
Right, so we shall, as they say, pass amongst you and
So
try
we
and
have a,
party with your money. Party
yeah,
from your
if
money.
we have a break for 10 minutes.
Yep. And then we'll be over to our man here.
Right.
Okay? Right.
So we're
Thank you. And as I say, great to see
We
everybody
can
here again.
also collect the room money, sorry, we can't collect a pound for the room. I had a bag for that, but I didn't buy it. No, I haven't got a bag. No, I'll use this. There you go, yeah,
Push this one there.
Saves everything getting mixed up.
that's Liz Ryan and Stevens. So if anybody would like a raffle ticket, the lovely Liz will be coming around.
No, just
I'm going to get confused if I do that.
Oh, this phone's a waste of time. Worst thing I've ever bought in my life. Yeah. Can you appreciate that? But, oh, hang on.
That's £3.
Yes.
Like your granddad says, it's a fiver in the car at Christmas, they get yourself a tie.
Four 8 to 490.
486 to 490. Norman, you take your choice.
Yeah, because that Edinburgh Corporation Tiger, whatever it was.
No, the tiger. Bill. The tiger. Not the tie, the tiger.
I heard you clearly.
Should have got the specs there, was the door as well.
Got them.
There's the advert for that. Got to try and switch it on.
By convention, Norman?
You don't get the next one there.
Yeah.
Well, they are both running too. So, one of these so he can't open it, didn't he?
481, 485.
Oh, God. All right, yes, next round.
Previous one.
Yeah.
Very
Don't worry,
saucy.
just
No, it's on the tie. Something's going on here.
Yes.
Give him the money, Bill.
Yes.
Give him the money.
All right, yeah.
Everyone get a prize every time.
It's going to leave me embarrassed because there's one of them.
Yeah, you would.
Mine will come to.
541 to 545.
Oh, that's it.
Again. Well, put it back.
Who was it that wins it?
Because I buy most raffle tickets, that's why.
Yeah.
What is it you can do with a tie?
There's a free historic sports on time.
I've already got one there. The book. What's the book?
The bus.
I'll have the tie.
You'll have You're going to sell it to somebody, aren't you?
It's not for me, it's for the missus.
Oh,
I'm sure wear that to work.
She is now. I'm a good scrat around here.
you just
That one there.
Oh, that's the receipt, John.
471 to 475.
That's me.
That's Bon.
That's me. I'll have the boat, I think.
You love it.
There you go.
Again.
Otherwise I'm getting 200 quid off Beadle.
Accident at work.
Which chair will be-
461 to 465.
464, 461 to 465.
Michael.
Regulations, Michael.
Hey?
So Michael, you get the ball.
It was right.
Right, oh, we'll quickly whip round and collect the dead tickets then.
I'm keeping them next time we come round again.
Can we just have your dead tickets, please, just so I can put them in the recycle?
So there's no fraud.
Are they vegan raffle tickets?
Any more tickets?
Yes.
Folks, you sent me a video yesterday.
All of them.
It's wonderful. Oh, the dog's morning, some farmer. You're getting rid of his cat left, in the beer, and let the dog eat it.
Can you destroy the carrier like that? I need it for all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, is everybody, we're all back? Okay, everybody, right, tonight's speaker, no introduction, clearly. The idea is just to keep the evening sort of light, really, since it's the first time we've been back together. So Chris is just going to show us a lot of pictures of buses. Feel free to chat, chip in, or whatever.
Right, okay then. Well, let me just echo Bill in saying how nice it is to see as many of you here as possible. And it's good to get the bus, the OVNRs and another London Titan and some sort of low floor thing on the left. The bus itself, that's when it was working the Hartlepool Shopper, so I think it was about 1997, 98. By the way, I'm crap at remembering dates these days, so if you know the dates or you want to add any information, feel free to chuck in, okay? The bus itself, we were offered it back in B is now 417 GCD again at the Canvey Island Museum down at Canvey Island. Yep. Next. There's a view of it working Service 58 in Stockton-on-Tees. The thought of sending that up to Hardwick, knowing the kids in Hardwick, I wouldn't do it these days. But in those days, it was a bit of a novelty. And of course, Robson Townsend services
Like being at the seaside.
say again?
Just like being at the
Just
seaside.
like being at the seaside, instead of getting ice cream thrown at you, you're getting rocks and bottles thrown. Is that Bob Jameson there? Stood next to Bill? I don't know.
Where is that then? Is it Stockton?
That's Stockton High Street, yes. Yeah, just after the town hall on the left-hand side, after Duffield Street.
I think it's on
Yeah. Next. This was interesting. This is an acquired one from a friend of mine in the Hull bus group. This is Atlantean 45, which was hired to East Yorkshire prior to them being purchased. East Yorkshire had a requirement for buses with power steering on school contracts, and they hired 44 and 45, or was it 45 and 46, prior to purchasing the others. And that went down to East Yorkshire in full transit livery, working school contracts in Hull on full transit livery. And what we're going to see tonight is actually a mixture of preserved stuff, transits, Hartlepool, and some others thrown in. However, my attempts to get them all in numerical order came to nothing, so it's just a mad jumble. So just whatever turns up. Anyway, so that's Atlantean 45, and that's outside Anleby Road Depot in Hull. Next. That, for those who haven't seen it, is 544 in its current state. It's getting all the chassis dismantled there, and I'm told that it's actually coming along quite nicely back together again. Yes, yes. I'll ask him if it's ready for the next running day, but I suspect it might not be. But that's at the Rotherham Vintage Vehicle Restoration Centre. When they have their open days, that's quite an exhibit set up on its ramps. The thing in front of it is yet another interest of mine. It's a Cypriot Bedford Village bus. There was one of them in Darlington in the 80s.
Is it the one that Andrew Buckley had?
No, it's a different one, I think. But at the time the one that was in Darlington, there were three of them. There was a turquoisey blue one, which was well known on the rally field at the time. And there was one outside a nightclub called Africa in Manchester, and it was painted up in zebra stripes. And there was the one in Darlington. There's still three in this country, but they're all different to the ones I've just mentioned. But I do like these little oddball things, and that's going to be the subject of another slideshow at some time. Next. Another bus which I've got my eyes on, when the day comes when we have a museum and plenty of money, Bill. That's XG 9304, 1947 Leyland PD1, I think it is, and that currently resides up at the Scottish Vintage Bus Museum at Latharmond. I was quite chuffed when I bought that picture out of a 10-pence box, because I thought it was always getting towed, but it wasn't. It actually runs on its own power. So I was chuffed to bits about that. The only thing wrong with it is it's got seats from a Barton bus with a similar body, and they're very slightly longer than the proper ones. But one day we'll have that back. You know. This is JVN 40E after they first started working on it, getting it resurrected in 2017. I think that is just after they cramped it up. You've got Jerry, Peter and Mick Dowling there, and myself and Dave Hunter were stood next to us taking loads of pictures. I'm so pleased that's going to be back out on the road again, you know, in Transit Green. Next. This was the cake at the open day. This was meant to be the last slide, but of course, like I said, I can't get them all in America. But this is the cake that they had at the open day in 2018. Where they made it, I don't know, but it's quite accurate, apart from the half cab. It's quite an accurate representation of the Stockton PD tour. And I don't know how it happened, but I got most of it. There was a couple of slices for the mayor and mayoress, and Nathan came up at the end and said, "Do you want this?" So, yeah, we'll have that.
It's in the archive.
It's not in the archives, it's in my stomach, or it was in my stomach. Next. Another selection that we put in is Middlesbrough Corporation. I've tried to throw in some Middlesbrough Teesside Rails Traction and Stockton Corporation. And there's a Middlesbrough Fleet Line. I'm not sure where that is actually. It's probably, is it in Stainton? No. But anyway, we've got Leonard Cohen sat up on the top front seat there. And RDC 128. Shame no Middlesbrough Fleet Line survived, but there we go. Nice Middlesbrough blue. You what? Absolutely, yeah. Hartlepool, this is the old Church Street depot. The area around the side of the depot, a bit of wasteland where they were parked on for years. You know, Bristol RE, then you've got a Leyland Titan, and then you've got a flat screen RE. And this is another 10-pence special. This. I'll go through all the 10-pence boxes and junk boxes at these rallies, mainly because I can't afford 60 pence a print. But you always find something in them.
Yeah. Has the Hartlepool depot been pulled down?
Don't think so.
It became a bin wagon place, didn't it?
It didn't get pulled down, it became a bin wagon
Yeah,
place.
but I think it's since been pulled down.
I don't know, I haven't been round there since.
No,
But
it's
I've
still
heard it's
stands.
been.
It's still there, is
It's
it?
still there.
It's something to do with the art college now, I think.
Is
Or
it?
part of it is anyway.
Right.
Pulled down the canteen, I think.
Right, the most useful part of it, and I pulled it down. Next. PEF 21, a Strachan-bodied Leyland Leopard. This vehicle still exists under the care of Nick Larkin. I'm assured that it's actually being worked on now with a view to getting it running. Because Nick Larkin lives in Peterborough and he keeps a load of buses at the United Counties Bus Preservation Group, and that group are actually doing the work for him. So with a bit of luck, yeah, he's got PEF 28C as well, and he's got a Dennis Falcon as well, one of the Northern Counties Falcons, and a Bristol RE, well, two Bristol REs.
No one that is followed up.
This is our very own 223 when it was new. I acquired a load of slides that were half transit and half stagecoach, and that's it when it was new in 1995 on Stockton High Street. Looking very smart. And that's how it looks like now, isn't it?
Nearly. Wheels to paint.
Wheels to paint, yeah. Next. There's another view of it coming towards you. I think that's one of Mark Wilson's pictures. 223 in Middlesbrough, Newport Road. That's one I nicked off the net. I can't get it any bigger than that, but that's a brand new 227 turning into Northern Counties Works. Presumably, presumably after a road run test. Next. And there's another view of a similar one, actually in the sheds getting finished off. Behind, you can see one, the blue and white and yellow one is one of three similar vehicles which went to Kingston upon Hull. I can't understand why it's got South Sea on it. Were these diverted from somewhere?
No, the story is that the people of Brightech who made the destination screens were based in Poole, I believe, down Dorset way. And when they supplied the units, there just came pre-programmed a load of Poole destinations.
Right,
So
okay.
that was pre-programmed into Cleveland Transit destinations.
Right. That's a picture I took at 227 in Stockton Depot. About 1997, 98 that. Next. Middlesbrough Lowbridge Guy Arab, BXG 131, outside the Town Hall in Middlesbrough on the Greenway. Very nice. Not
Yeah,
bad.
they weren't riding.
But we'd have one now though, wouldn't we?
Well, yeah.
Yes, that's the thing. Isn't it? Next, the two Leyland Red Lines that Cleveland Transit operated both ended up going through Maltby auctions and were purchased by Skelton Mini Coaches. And I remember the day I went to see these. This was up on a hillside in East Cleveland, bloody freezing and chucking it down with snow. And I managed to get the pictures of the two of them together, and about 100 other pictures of them. L35 HHN in Stockton Depot, presumably not long after a repaint. Yeah, area's unrecognisable now, almost. And this is a bit of an oddball. I've been doing a little bit of research on these. These are the little Bedfords that were cut down to do the Gisborough Town services. That one's 357. I've been trying to trace the disposals of these, and two of them went off to other operators in the Birmingham area, and two of them ended up in scrapyards.
See Coventry,
You know what?
that's
Is it Coventry?
It's outside Coventry, there was
Right, yeah. So I'm trying to find the actual owners who actually had them and when.
Next. Go to Lancaster.
Yes, they're the ones that went to Lancaster, yes. I've just done an article on that. I've just been correcting an article on that, so I'll be passing that to Mark. Guy Arab, DXG 136, Middlesbrough's last blue bus, seen in Stockton Depot waiting to be painted into turquoise. That's one of the other little Bedfords. I don't know who the girl is, she was just in the shot, but I didn't take that, I bought that. I do know that these went to, is it Whackton Coach Sales and then on to Perry's of Bromyard? It might be the other way around. Yeah. But I discovered that picture and the other picture of it on the net, so of course I lifted them. I'll get them printed. JVN 40E at the North East Bus Museum back in 1984, shortly after they got it. And that's it in its dark green pseudo transit, TRTB green livery. Now what they've done was, the idea was to restore it, but they said it was too new to preserve, which I thought was rather odd. They didn't like turquoise, so they slapped the pseudo TRTB green. But they didn't prepare it, they just slapped the paint on. And on a bright sunny day you can see Mickey Mouse and Goofy down the side. You know. Sweaty Betty in Middlesbrough Depot. Sweaty Betty because the cab's then closed and everybody burns and boils up inside the cab on a hot summer's day. LXG24. You know what?
PFN, that.
Yes. Yeah.
I come down in a hoodie and I kid you not, I'm literally stripping up halfway through the journey.
There's an idea, a new game show, making bus drivers. Next.
Give it a miss.
We're not going north east, remember?
Another Volvo, what are these, county buses? Stockton High Street when it was new, from the same batch of slides with the mall in the background. All of that area's changed, out of recognition. I think all of them are gone now, John, haven't
No, the one on the B10Ms, yeah.
they? Yeah, they're
Yeah,
all
they're
gone
all
now,
gone.
aren't
Shame. There was a couple around until a few years ago.
they? Really?
The problems is that basically the engines got to drop into coaches. So people with B10M coaches have blown up engine, buy them for a couple of grand.
So there are no scrapped hulks around? Derelict.
All gone.
All gone. What a shame. That Hull one's been turned into a car carrier now, isn't it? Or a camel
I
wagon?
think it was scrapped.
It was scrapped?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Similar one in Stockton Depot when the stagecoach Stripey livery was making its presence known, going to Stainton, which now has the number of 613. This time all the routes and things were changing left, right. Yeah, I've never been on the 613, I know where it went.
613, was it evening and Sunday service?
Was it? Right.
It's on the county road.
Yeah, the county road.
That's a short working on it, Chris.
You what?
That's a short working on that.
Is it?
It'll be last working in the night, won't it? Last one of the night round the stadium.
Right. 363, this became the Cleveland Health Authority bus. It was later refurbished and turned into the Octobus. I first found this was one of those that was sold through Maltby at the same time the Leyland Red Lines were sold. The others went off to Davies of Pencader and Northwestern, and this one turned up with Cleveland County Health Service. It still exists on a Sawn, and it's a motorway control car carrier. Is it gone now, is it?
I don't know, as I was saying, it still exists on a song, but the song's last 10 years now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you, Michael Patterson, you found it in York, didn't you?
It was probably in North Yorkshire.
Yes, you told me you found it in a yard near a roundabout.
I'm
Yeah.
sure the week I seen Bishop and found it beats an hours as well.
Yeah. Well, when I went to London once and I was sat on the coach and we caught this thing up, and I thought, bloody hell, it's 363, and I didn't have my camera, I had nothing to take a photograph of me, so I sat there growling, passing 363.
You know, you were mentioning about your lorry that McLaughlin's got.
Yeah,
That's the one that's gone to Pickering now.
is
So
it?
North Yorkshire Road Railway.
Oh, very good, at least it survives. Didn't know that.
Sorry, yes, it's going to be start to promote the railway and horticulture.
Oh, super. Next. This is one of the Atlanteans that went to Hull. Of the class of these, 8 of them went to East Yorkshire and 4 of them went to Kingston upon Hull. So you had the odd situation of the whole class with 2 different operators in the same area. The livery is interesting. It's the Hull version of Cleveland Transit livery, and it went down like a lead balloon in Hull because before that, Hull, the people of Hull were very proud of their livery because the livery actually had the 3 crowns on the side of the bus, and it's a shame they didn't keep the 3 crowns. But that was around the back of Lombard Street when we went down there in 1994. You know. There's some native Hull ones. That's the original livery. I think the one on the right's dead and the others are spread far and wide. Next. They had some little Iveco minibuses which were all painted up in Royale livery, but by the time we got there, some of them were appearing in the transit-inspired Hull colours. And there's one of those Olympians, the same as 223. That was taken at Showbus in about 1996. I thought I'd just get that in the door, right, so I just took its picture. This is 544 and 99 at the Dorman Museum on the very first running day that we had, when we had 99 recommissioned and rededicated. That was 1998. And that one, 31 HHN in stripes, I think that's in Norton Village. And another one of those Volvos, Stockton High Street, working the 35 to Wolverton Court Estate. Every time I go on that service, I always stick my fingers up at my old school as we go past it. No feel, yeah, hated the place.
The
Next.
kids are all doing that back to you.
Well, yeah. I'm quite lucky actually, because when I do the 35, I never see any school kids. Yeah, I must just miss them. Yeah.
Yeah, you run that late.
I never.
They've usually gone by 7
All you
o'clock.
who sent late are not getting out of this room alive. 544 at Thirst stopping place on the way back from Santoft. We all piled off that and into the fish and chip shop and all piled back on again. Good days. That wasn't the day it broke down on at Thirsk, because one of the times it broke down we had to get the tow wagon to bring it back. And 225 with its hideous livery for Mecca Bingo being passed by a Lynx on Stockton High Street. This is one of Fred Gilbert's photos taken at Christmas about 1998. Next. That's a boat slide of Lynx 620 on the other side of the High Street. Sorry, the same side of the High Street coming down. Next. But I took a running day a few years ago with the absolutely beautiful NVK 341 and the equally beautiful 99. When we have the running day, as many of you will know, we do tend to close a few buses under the transport and
Well,
bridges.
I'm trying to get the visitor centre open
Yes,
very shortly.
yes. Well, if they do, we can have a running day there next year. This is at Sandtoft. This is again 2 from Hull and 1 from Teesside. We deliberately parked them there because of the Teesside/Hull connection.
Is that a flat next door?
I have absolutely no idea. Next. And another Hull one, SAG 528 coming away from Sandtoft. With something else behind it. Lombard Street again. When they first took over Hull, we actually did a trip down to Lombard Street and a couple of other places around the area. And Hull had actually, Transit had actually transferred the Atlanteans down and a handful of Leopards which had all been in the reserve fleet and had all been prepared in Hull livery and they were operating contracts down there. Next. Went to the North Yorkshire Moors Railway in 1992 and the first thing I saw was a Cleveland Transit coach. The second time that happened, I'd come to Edinburgh also in 1992 and just on the main road into Edinburgh coming off the Forth Bridge, hurtling the other way was a Cleveland Transit Leopard. So I got a picture of that as well. Some of you might remember this thing, a little ex-Hull Leyland Swift when we took it down to Showbus. That was a day and a half on that.
Just a question, what's that next to it?
I've absolutely no idea.
Something too new?
Yeah, it looks like some sort of Olympian. Yeah.
It says Cambus because
Yeah,
they're
the
the
Swift,
ones that
I
built
thought it was brilliant.
Right.
You need to lower the seats.
Stockton Depot again, 223 again, and I think that's with the hideous livery. And one of the 3 that followed it, P829 FEF, and 2 native fleet lines. And there's 224 Sister, Teesside Tertiary College livery. By now Transit green buses were getting thin on the ground. This Dominator 208 here was one of 4 that was still green at the time. Yeah. Hartlepool Leyland National with an equally hideous livery. Cadge 215W. It's a shame that no Hartlepool Nationals survive, especially with the weekend coming up. And one of the hideous Dennis Falklands from East Lancs. Yeah. And a Bristol RE number 77 as it happens. That's the one that's sat in the yard on Oxford Road. It doesn't look like that now. Good. Another Hull bus. This was the Hull ferry bus because they used to have Prince's Dock ferry service. They used to have all the Vikings come over to Hull, and they'd come on they'd come over to Hull and rape and pillage and go back again after spending all their dollars in the shops. And this bus is one of those that ferried them to and from the ferry terminal, a bit like what Northern does for North Shields. Yeah. They then turned it into an exhibition vehicle, and somewhat surprisingly, it turned up in Stockton. It was supposed to have been preserved. I don't know where it is now. Yeah, well, that was dumped at Stockton Depot. 544 and 500 before we went to the Tyne Tees run. One of my P4 Rovers behind, XMC 933A. Good car that. One of 3 ex-LDCP 1975 fleet lines, then owned by Compass Royston. The little lad isn't driving it, he's just there for the photo, he wanted a picture. It's the grandson of Cliff we used to have. Yeah, Cliff Gaines. Picture taken off 544, showing 99 going up the high street with one of those Volvos coming the other way.
that wonderful high street with bus stops in it.
Yeah. Still not very well.
No people. Well, it wasn't a Sunday evening. Baguettes, what more do you want?
Is it 2 pence or 2 shillings?
2D, 2 pence.
2 pence.
Yeah. Next. That's when about half a dozen Hartlepool RAs were all crammed into Stockton Depot. And that's a picture of, well, that was about the best picture I could get of them. So that's 59, I think.
61.
61, wedged in the corner there. And B27 Patch, that's the one Larkin has.
He's got 31.
He's got 31, I think. Yeah. This must be the only type of bus that actually suits Stagecoach Stripes. I think it looks great. Yeah.
I think it's
Northern
better.
Counties, Dennis Falcon. You are.
I think they're better.
Next.
I can't think of
There's the other side of a sister vehicle. Yeah, looks good. That looks very American-esque. Yeah, lovely. Some of you might remember this. Thames Down training. Horrendous Leyland Leopard with an even more horrendous gearbox. Bill, you were the one that told me you can spin it round.
Oh,
Was that all right with you?
she's absolute pitch.
Oh, right, okay.
The LH
Oh, it was the LH that you were not saying no more then. Right, okay. then.
Beautiful
Yep.
drive.
It still survives that. It still survived down south somewhere. Sure it does. You know. Anyway, when we finished with it, went down to Stagecoach Campbell's. 2 more LDCPs at Compass Racing, and the one on the left is Yorkshire Woolen LHD 308K. Next. Another Hull one at Lombard Street, you can just see 544 in the background. Flat 511V. Next. Another one, flat 515V. Did that one come up here? Some of them flat V's came up here today.
It's a very short period of time, yeah.
Yeah, well, they were only here for, well, less than 5 minutes, weren't they?
Yeah.
We had 505 and 514 City Sightseeing.
Right, and let's say that again?
We had 505 and 514 City Sightseeing.
Right, yeah.
And
Some of them got converted to open toppers, didn't they, for the city sightseeing?
I believe some of them still exist.
Oh, well, there's your Hull version then, if you want that. Nice 1979 picture of YVN 922T, 522T even. This came from Johnny Walker's collection of negatives, and I think he just seen that brand new, so he went out in the yard and photographed it. And of course the famous Gear Hostess Atlanteans. This is at Stockton Depot having its chassis cleaned on some more stilts. These things were absolute magic, I love these. Yeah. When I was at school, there was always one that turned up on our school private hire, NRN 610, A60. There was always that one, you know. Lovely blue plush seats up on the top deck, trolleybus seats on the bottom deck. Absolute flying machines, them. And that's, I think it's VFR 379, just getting his chassis done after it just turned out. Some of you might remember that, L566, the driver had gone away and left it in gear, with the handbrake on, so it had gone and heated up and eventually burnt the back end out. I think they scrapped it. You might remember that, F100 AKB, Renault Northern Counties demonstrator, which still survives at Santoft in London Red, unless they've restored it back to that. I think we should have it up on a running day and have it in that livery with transit on the side. That'd be good. Next. Another of Johnny Walker's shots. Stockton Depot, just a collection of rear ends, and Dominator 211 with the UK Expatriates advert on. There's a Bristol VR 107 had the same advert on, and there was the coal-fired advert, and the 2 Expatriates were the first. 133 were the first 3 buses to have adverts for a long time, since the 70s. There's one of the rebodied Atlanteans being prepared for service with East Yorkshire by Cleveland Transit. Remember that day well, I went down to see it. That picture was taken at 2 o'clock in the morning. I used to go down there at any time of the night. I used to do, me and my mate Howard, we just used to go down at stupid o'clock in the morning.
Looks fairly daylight on the skylights, Chris.
Well, there is some that were taken at that time. Next. And there's my favourite, 372 up on stilts. Why we never got that, Bill?
Because it's absolutely hideous.
I know it is, but it's great. It's so hideous, it's brilliant, you know. I mean, I love these quirky buses like this. You know, I absolutely love them. I think it was a sad day when we didn't get that. It ended up in Scotland with 3 different operators.
Because no one loved it.
Yeah, and ended its days with an operator called Gilchrist, who ran it with its previous operator's name on it, White Ribbon. I was talking, go back to it a sec. I was talking to a Scottish enthusiast, and I was asking about it. He said, oh, when I saw a weird looking single decker with a Dominator front, with a Fleetline front at Lark Hill, you know, the big scrapyard at Lark Hill. So that's probably where it went. Yeah.
What's the body on that, Chris?
Northern Counties.
Northern County?
Northern Counties built the frame, Cleveland Transit finished it off.
Finished in a rough sense.
Yeah.
Everything on it was made to measure.
I think made to measure was hitting it with a hammer till it fitted, wasn't it?
Mm.
Nonetheless, it was quirky. I mean, when I went on it, I mean, it was light and airy inside. I mean, it was really good. I did an article on this for Classic Bus called the Greenhouse Bus, and they actually published it, so I was quite chuffed. You are?
Must have been a quiet month.
I'm going to cut your brake tyres. 920 in Cleveland Coaches Orange. This was 2 double-deckers that were painted orange in the orange version of the Cleveland Transit for school contracts. Next. The less said about this, the better. Hideous stripy Cleveland Coaches livery that appeared for a few months. There was that and the Tiger, which had got painted up, and it was absolutely ghastly. I hated that.
Have you forgotten this quirkiness? Thought it was quirky.
No, it's not quirky. It's just excrement. Yeah. Next. And some of you might remember this, Fleet Line 149, which went into the low bridge at Darlington, taking the top deck off it. I do know the driver who did it, but he will remain nameless. Luckily the bus was empty. At the time we were hoping that we'd see a single deck Fleet Line conversion, because that would have been even more quirky and worthy of preservation, you know.
Did it get rebuilt? I take
It got rebuilt. There was another Fleet Line 119, which I think turns up in the slideshow somewhere, which donated its whole top deck onto that one. Now when that was withdrawn, it was in a scrapyard in Barnsley, and we went and stripped all the older style light turquoisey blue roof panels off it for use in 106.
I have an excellent video of you with a crowbar trying to break things and
Fairly
yeah,
miserably, yeah.
yeah.
I hadn't had my shredded wheat then. Yeah. Next. There's 119, yes, that's the donor vehicle. It was parked in there. And again, I hope there was another Fleet Line single deck conversion, but that wasn't to be.
I'll second that. That would have been something interesting.
It would have been, yeah, because I think West Midlands did some single deck conversions.
Glasgow did one as well.
Glasgow
didn't
did one, yeah. Yeah, so it would have been good.
File country as well.
You what?
File.
Fileborough did one as well, yeah.
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 That still exists, that one.
Links 22.
No, the filed one.
Oh, the file one, right. Didn't File rebody some with Atlanteans
Yeah.
with single deck bodies?
That's it, yeah, East Lancs ones, yeah.
Yeah,
It's preserved.
yeah. And there we have Links 622 on a rainy day with Adolf Hitler getting on.
Sorry, where?
Can you see him? There he is. If you-
We weren't going to talk about that tonight, Chris.
We weren't,
The look on his face should have been caught.
Yes. Incredibly, this thing still survived till fairly recently. It's been a playbus, but now it's in bits. That was that rather fascinating long ex-Green Line / London Country Olympian, which they bought for the Newcastle service. Apparently they had a lot of problems with the rear axle, so it spent more time in the depot than it did on the road. But that would have been a beast. It was a beast. I used to see that when I used to work in Halfords in Newcastle. Round about sort of like lunchtime, I'd come round the back, photograph the Northumbria buses and look for that. And sometimes it came in, yeah. This is another one I nicked off the net, Stockton High Street. That was one of about 3 with that ghastly Microtechnic wrap-round advert on it.
That's the 0642.
Oh, yeah, 0642, yeah, there's no 1 in it, yeah. And the links in the Trust Windows livery.
TMS rip-off.
Yeah. And that's the bridge at Haverton Hill with the Hartlepool Leyland coming under it. It's even grottier down there now, it really is. It's evil. Never liked Haverton Hill, it was an awful place. Port Clarence, Haverton Hill, same place. Yeah, yeah. Shithole.
Still is, I was
Sorry,
there about 6
bovine
months
hole.
ago.
Well, that was at Preston Park. That was in 2017, just before I met my lovely wife, Liz.
That's back on in June as well.
Yes, yes, I've got some entry forms for that. And that's me working the trade stand. I think that day I was on most of the day by myself. Sweltering hot day. Oh, what happened there? Yep, there's our photo box now, stand tables.
It's a bit bigger now, this far.
It is, isn't it? It's monstrous now. Next. Another up from the late 90s and 2 native transit fleet lines, which I think are about the last couple of them in service as well at the time, and Dominators either side. Ah, Peter, you're all right. Stockton Atlantean, age 17, going off to Park End somewhere. I think that's the flyover bit where you go over to Park End.
I hate to break it here, Chris, we're definitely going to Park End.
It's definitely going to Park End.
I bet they had more time then than they do now.
God, tell me about. Well, it's still going fast. It's slightly blurred. If you notice, it's still speeding along. So the times, you know, the times must be still tight. You know, I hate doing those 39s. Absolutely bloody despise them. There's no time on them whatsoever. I was once 37 minutes late on a 39.
Everyone in the room can well believe that.
My name at Stockton is Chris On Time Hall. Next.
You were that late, you were on time for the next one.
And there's H19. I'm not sure where that is. It might be Clairville Stadium, but I don't know. But it's obviously on a private hire with a transit coach behind. You know, that one became a trainer bus after that. Next. And there's a Hull liveried Atlantean 942. As I said earlier, I'm in one of the Hull groups as well, because I've always been interested in East Yorkshire and all as well, mainly because of all the North East buses that end up there. But the drivers there hated those things, call them all sorts. There's a chap on Facebook called Phil Kingston who I'm always taking the mickey out of, and he's always ripping these to pieces, you know. And Gay Hostess in transit days coming out of Stockton Depot. Before the industrial estate was built. I think that building on the right was a hospital of some sort. St. Anne's. Next. You might remember this, H72 and H74 were for a short time PSV trainers. That would have been nice to have said. What happened, there was a couple of lasses from the office had to go through the bus tests. 3 of them went through using 72 and 74, and a couple of them didn't, so they used 544 with L plates. That's taken in Stockton Depot, and the bus next to it is ex-Saltburn Motor Services vehicle, by now in use as the Cleveland Show bus. That one ended up at Hartlepool College being dismantled. Down Hartlepool. Speaking of which, there's one of the ECW body leopards. Hartlepool. They were attractive then. If you went down Seaton Carew Road in the 80s, there was one of them stuck on the side as a cafe. It survived there well into the early 90s and then it disappeared.
I think I remember it as a kid.
You remember it? Yes. You what? I don't know. I really don't know. Next. Yeah, another one of my favourite shots, Middlesbrough Exchange with HEF 361 going on the 27th to SEMA. Now, when Middlesbrough Bus Station had an anniversary a few years back, it was 30th anniversary of it opening or something, they came and asked me, the council came over and asked me if you got any pictures of Middlesbrough Bus Stations. So I said, all right, I'll get you some together. I gave them a disc with about 15 pictures on. And the amount of publications and websites I've seen this on since is unbelievable. You know, where's our royalties? Next. Oh, That's one of the E400s that came to Stockton a couple of years ago. It's just parked in the depot. I didn't put that one on Facebook though.
Good.
Yeah,
It's on everywhere now.
it's on everywhere now, yeah. Next. Seaton Carew bus station with a Hartlepool Daimler on it. We were there on Sunday when there was buses from the NEBT doing a road run. There was the Newcastle Atlantean, Lee Garrett's VR, dual purpose VR and his dual purpose RE were there. Durham Districts, Bristol was there, and Lee Garrett's Express Linked Olympian was there as well. It was a good day. Yeah, we followed them all the way up to Sedgefield, but we couldn't get very far after Sedgefield because there was a road traffic accident with 5 cars, so they had to turn around and go back. Next. That was the fleet name that Hull used in the transit style. Employee owners working for you. It later appeared with part of the Stagecoach group underneath it. Next. Middlesbrough Exchange again. BXG 758C, going to Brookfield. Notice how nicely smart everybody's dressed. No baseball caps or tracksuits. That will be about 1968. Nice period view of Middlesbrough. Stockton High Street in the rain with a derelict Odeon, BXG 523K. Going off to North Tees, JDC 542, doing the U-turn. You don't get many pictures of them doing the U-turn at the south end of the High Street, so I was quite chuffed to get that. Notice the Cleveland Transit advert on the side. Yeah, next. This one I nicked from someone who shall remain nameless, but that's a view of Middlesbrough Depot. I think it's actually 544 and 569. 544 has got the little strip on, so it's definite for that. And the one next to it is 569. And EXG 892 on the Dunbar, it's either Dunbar or Heart of the Pennines. So that's you in the top deck, Mick? That's you in the top deck window? That's you.
Yes, that's me.
That's good. Well, when you get it finished, we can recreate that, can't we? Yeah. Yes. This was at the 100 Years of Leyland event in 1986. This was the Leyland, it's probably Workington, but they had a big exhibition with loads of Leyland vehicles, and that's because it was brand new, it was just being rebodied. So they had one of those as an exhibit. Actually got a programme for that, and there's an entry in it for that. Next. Another Volvo 20246 in Stockton Depot. 99 coming out of the depot again with Adrian Beadnell on his yellow jacket driving it. That was going into Bus Wash 32 again, and M550 SPY Stockton Depot.
I think 50 which I've seen a picture of. The train down there.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm sure it's 50.
Right. This was on the day when we took 99 to the Greater Manchester Transport Festival. It was a long day, that, I tell you. Yeah. That was the one where the bloody cyclists were overtaking us on the A19, wasn't there? There was a cycle race going on, and we're trundling along at 40 mile an hour, and all these cyclists pedaling at fury.
Is that the day you clicked over the clubhouse?
I can't remember. Getting old and senile now, I can't remember.
Then Howard were watching all the cars go past us.
Yeah.
And pulled over.
Yeah. The thing next to it, go back a second, the thing next to it is from Salford Corporation, whose livery style was very similar to Stockton's. Next. Man lowliner in Stockton Depot, worthy of preservation these days. Next. And H100 at Redcar Ambulance Station, that's after it had been used as the Sunderland Health Authority bus. And R840 OVN in Stockton Depot. That was on staff bus duties for nearly 2 or 3 years then, because it had an ongoing problem with its rear axle. And by the time I picked my, passed my PSV test in 2014, I was doing the football specials up to the Stadium of Light. Or Stadium of never mind. when I thought I want to take that bus on a run, so I begged the controller to give me 16840, and eventually he did. So I thought, great, I've got 16840, I would have stopped them for a change. But halfway up the A19, it was great to go all the way to the Stadium of Light, and the bloody thing started peeing water out the back, didn't it? And had a busload of passengers on. So it tested my, yeah. So anyway, it's out the area now. I think it still survives somewhere, doesn't
Most
it?
of them do.
Most of them do, yeah.
Yeah,
And so 1683, one of the
yes. That's the deadline at Stockton Depot, or at least the fleet lines are dead. 133 ran for quite some time without the help bumper on, and Dominator on the tail end of it, and the links on the other side. Next. There's XG9304 again, which we saw earlier. That's at Letharmond a couple of years back, just before the Chinese plague was inflicted upon us. I was actually taking a photograph of it from behind the barrier, and the chap who was sat there, he said, do you want to come and take a proper picture of it? So he come behind the wire and take a proper picture of it, have a look on. It's great, yeah. I says, what's happening to it? Well, how it came about was that it was owned by a chap called Jasper Petty, who was a well-known preservationist in the 60s and 70s. And what he was going to do with it was convert it to a Scottish SMT lookalike, because apparently Scottish SMT, Scottish Motor Transport, had actually operated identical ones, but none of them had survived. And the Middlesbrough one was identical, so he bought that off Andy Wood and was intending to do that, to convert it, but so far it hasn't been done. So I did mention our interest in it.
Just sit and wait at the view, Chris.
You want?
Just sit and wait at the view.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. If I ever win the lottery, that'll be all the same week, won't it, darling?
Outside the front of the house.
You what?
Outside the front of the house.
Outside the front of the house. If we win the lottery, big stall, it's new house, place for the 500 group to do its work, cat sanctuary, centre for rescued farm animals. That's what we're
And
doing.
what about your leather seats in your Volvo?
And
They
your
haven't changed.
and your back window.
And the back window, yeah, the back window needs changing. Right, next. Oops. That is EXG892, which is now Tyneside Heritage Vehicles. Would you like to fill us in on that, Mr. Darling, sir?
Pardon?
Would you like to fill us in on that?
You see that sort of rough panel on the rear quarter there?
Mhm.
That's actually rubber.
Is it?
Yeah.
Crikey.
I don't think it's meant to be, but
It's the movable street furniture.
some point in the past.
You'll probably find there's probably the bits that aren't meant to be on that.
It'll be metal in the future.
Apart from that, how are you getting on?
Hmm?
Apart from that, how are you getting on?
Not a lot of progress. Family commitments get in the way at the moment.
Hmm. Next.
Got the radiator to get done up.
Cleveland Transit's breakdown wagon, one of my favourite transit vehicles. Leyland Clydesdale with Holmes 750 crane. Around about 1995, just before the stagecoach takeover, Hartlepool and Transit exchanged recovery vehicles. Hartlepool had a 1984 Leyland Cruiser, which was obviously light years ahead of that, so they swapped them over, and that vehicle was sent to Hartlepool basically as a depot shunter. But Hartlepool fitters mowed their heads off because there was then no work for them to do because all the recovery was done by stock in the Hartlepool vehicle. The Hartlepool Leyland Cruiser still survives today with Davy Stainthorpe of Skelton Coaches, if we have any wagon preservationists in the room. Next. That was the predecessor to the Leyland Cruiser. This is a big Bedford TK, I think it is. The body and the booms were taken off that and put on the Cruiser, because the Cruiser came as an ex-skip wagon, and they just lengthened the chassis a little bit and stuck the body and the booms on it. And that, the actual cab chassis, apparently went into preservation, but I've never seen it. Yeah. Middlesbrough bus depot with a dead RE on the service 9. Stockton High Street again, Atlantean 119 again, coming down the high street and a bloke about to risk his life crossing the road. followed by a United Bristol NW, and 2 members of the LPT batch at Stockton Depot. I did a bit of research on these, and because what I was trying to do was to find out what liveries buses carried on their withdrawal at the time of their withdrawal. I think all of these bar 2 were all green when they went. Stockton's last green bus, number 8, OUP 757, Stockton Depot waiting to go into the paint shop after being refurbished. And Massey bodied Leyland Titan KPT 769, which is down as untraced. If that ever turns up, we'll have to have it. Oh yes. Oh yes. You can't let that go.
Every time we went to the playing fields in Holy Trinity School in Stockton, it was that bus.
It was that bus, was
The
it?
playing fields were at Fairfield.
Yeah,
We went outside Holy Trinity School, stood outside. There was 64 every single time.
every
Lovely.
time. Like NRN 610 for me, yeah. I'd love that to still be
I
around.
would as well.
Yeah,
Well, the fastest one was number 70,
yeah.
and the best one was 68.
Well, number 68 hung around for a while because that became a trainer.
68 was the number 11.
Yeah,
You could beat anything in its sight.
yeah.
55 was a trainer.
And prior to that, Gup 556, which was the same body with the Gardner 6LW,
Right,
never been in anything so fast in your life.
right.
You could catch anything that.
Well, there's actually about 2 or 3 of them which are still down as untraced. But
Well,
to be honest, now, 40 years after withdrawal, I would imagine there's probably more chance of finding Bigfoot than there is finding one
Thin
of
on the
them.
ground.
Yeah. Ah, the Land Rover. I do like this. This also still survives on a farm in County North Yorkshire. Sadge 799H. New to Saltburn Motor Services, was turned into a Cleveland Transit service vehicle. Now, one of the drivers told me that he was told to recover a Saltburn Bedford from Saltburn with it. Buck Jones, that's who it was, Buck Jones. And he was driving along with it on the back in the winter of 1978, and all of a sudden everything got lighter. By the time he got back, he thought, oh, this is great. By the time he got back to the depot, there's the Land Rover and the bumper bar. And the bus was still in Saltburn. But I took that picture when it was withdrawn, and to be honest, I wish I'd bought that. You know, in Hartlepool, there's another one. There's a because when that was new to Saltburn, it was red and white. There's a one in Hartlepool, just on that bypass road that comes out of Hartlepool, Stockton Road, I think they call it, and it's SAJ 758H. And when I first saw that, I could only see the SAJH on the registration. Bloody hell, it's the Saltburn one! You know, all over the frigging road trying to get my bus straight, you know. But apparently it serves on a farm in North Yorkshire, but I've never seen it. I will do, yeah, that's a thought, yeah. This is another one nicked out of the net. One of the raw-bodied Atlanteans from South Bank. There were 6 of these, and from about 1973, 2 of them were permanently allocated to Stockton. There was a really funny story about one of these. Of the 2 that was allocated to Stockton, one of them always had a curious swaying motion like that on the upper deck. When it went round the corner, the whole thing was bloody moving. So the drivers complained about it, the passengers complained about it, so they brought it in to have a look. They took all the handrail panels off the middle bit there, and they found that there was only 2 bolts holding the entire top deck on the bus. Yeah. So needless to say, it was withdrawn pretty quickly. The rest of it had all rotted. Next. 32 again, that's turned up a few times on this slideshow. I didn't realise that at the time. 32 in transit green with stagecoach specification wheels, so the logo on the side will say Transit, part of the Stagecoach Group. Yes, you can just about.
Just like the ones on 223 do.
Yes, yeah. Is that how yours is going to be built?
Yes.
Excellent. With grey wheels. Yes. That must have been a hell of an interesting ride for the driver. Years ago, I used to have
Back to the brakes.
you what? Years ago, I used to have a P4 Rover. It was a Rover 60, which didn't have overdrive, it had freewheel, which is basically like coasting. You stop, you turn the freewheel and away you go. And going down Saltburn Bank was absolutely bloody hair-raising in it. And I can imagine the driver of this must have been sort of like needing a new pair of underpants fairly shortly afterwards, trying to get that down Saltburn Bank. But there is, as you all know, there's a piece of film in the winter of a few years ago of a Reaver driver coming up Saltburn Bank with his arm on the window, nonchalantly as hell, just driving up one-handed, getting up straight away, passing cars and all sorts. So I would imagine going up's easier than coming down, but I wouldn't like to go down that.
Look at the pier.
So there is, yeah.
That's
So
still
the
there.
pier was a full length.
Yeah.
It's a while ago.
Yeah. Well, that's pre-Cleveland Transit's, just pre-Cleveland Transit.
That's near where that car went through near the bus stop, near the bridge.
Aye, just last week, wasn't it?
Went on the beach.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Our very own 16833.
Complete with non-standard bumper.
Mm-hmm. Is there a case for painting it in that livery?
No.
Right.
It was a very short discussion because it was a blunt no.
There we are, same one, 16833 again, with its odd front, going up to Colby New 111. And one of Leven Valley's, I think there was a former Edinburgh one.
Yeah, they're fuel lithium.
Had a few of them, didn't they? Yeah. Yeah. John, I want you to do a slideshow on Teesside Independence.
I've done one.
Do another one.
Another one.
Yeah.
Well, I can show all the same photos again if you want.
How long
It'll be
ago
like one
was
of
it?
yours.
How long ago was it the last time you did it?
Well, about 2 years ago.
Right, so we're about due for another go, aren't
30 photos, seen 300 cars.
Yeah.
we? Yeah. Now then, this was a complete surprise to me. This is obviously one of the East Yorkshire rebodied Atlanteans, which had formerly been in service with East Yorkshire. But do you remember that film, Atonement?
Was that red car?
Yeah, when they were filming at Redcar, I walked round the corner and saw like jaw drop. And luckily I had my camera with me, so I managed to scale a wall and take a photograph of what was H44. And I was hoping it had survived, but it hasn't, because not long after that I found a photograph of it in a scrapyard. So. But what had happened was it had been bought by this film company because they also had an ex-Yorkshire traction Metrobus, which was on the other side, but I didn't take a picture of that because it's not worthy. So, you know, they'd had that, and I thought that would have been a super thing to have had. As you know, go back a sec, as John will know, H46 survives in France, Normandy Military Vehicle Museum. That was the one that went to Humberside Police and then Halton Peace Community Centre, where it was converted to an exhibition vehicle, and then it ended up as a cafe in Normandy. So I hold hopes out for recovering that one day.
There's also Transit Fleet Line France.
Yes, there is, yep. The Gauls have got 2 of our buses. We shall not allow this. Next. The Bristol VR's in Denmark. So we've got the Gauls to fight, we've got the Vikings to fight. There's a shot I took of Middlesbrough Depot. Before I became interested in buses, I always used to go past Middlesbrough Depot, and I always remember seeing them like this. So one day I had my camera, I thought, you know, I'm going to take the time-honoured view, and I got that photo. Next. Stockton PD2, passing the Leeds Hotel in Stockton High Street, just on the Cleveland Transit tacked over. All these Stockton PD2s are gone. There was 279 DUP, survived as a playbus and went to a preservationist in Lincolnshire who promptly scrapped it. Next. Ah, yes. This is the Holy Grail. This is Finding Bigfoot, this. The chap, M.T. Davies, is on the Hull bus group, and I said to him, do you have any pictures of Teesside's Scammell recovery tender? And he said, I'll see what I can get. And what do you know, he brought the picture of this up. In a dealer's yard, after service with Teesside. So, obviously it survived Teesside, but unfortunately he didn't remember which yard it was. But that's it in its second format with the reconstructed chariot-style body and cab. It's in overall white with a turquoise door and the wording Teesside Municipal Transport on the side. I know it was white because when I used to buy colour slides from Photobus, Arnie Richardson sent me a photograph of a Stockton Panther in Stockton Depot. Just visible on the right side, you can see the rear quarter of the recovery tender. And I wrote back to him and asked if he'd actually got a picture of it, but unfortunately he passed away before I could get a reply off him, so God knows. But that to me is like finding Bigfoot, you know. So I did ask the Scammell register if they knew anything about it, but they said, unless you've got a chassis number, we can't help you. But I've looked on the fleet lists of that period, and they only have the trade plates 0092C. You know, but the Leyland Clydesdale replaced that. And he allowed me to use that. He's allowed me to use that picture in archive. So I may well yet do an article on Cleveland's recovery tenders and send it to Commercial Vehicle Magazine. Next. This machinery is kaput.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I want to.
That's it.
I have to look in because I'm going to catch it September. It's a long walk.
Oh, right. Okay, then, well, nice to see you.
Once an hour now. Couldn't catch you guys.
Yes.
See you next round.
See you the next rally. Bye now. So this one is another 10p special. Came out of a 10p box showing 236 and 239 at South Bank Depot in that wonderful smart Cleveland Transit livery. Isn't it, Bill? Flanking it is another one on the left. Yeah, and MVNF Atlantean on the right. Interesting little story about this depot. Apparently it was known as F-Trib for two reasons, because it was out in the wilds of Cleveland, out in the wilds of nowhere, and the fact these heating poles at the front, they used to run a hose into the bus and it looked like cavalry horses tied up, and that's how it got its name. Yeah. Next. And there's the other little favourite of mine, Leyland Terrier wagon. Johnny Walker had a hand in designing this. This was done for the 1985 Open Day. And the idea was that the destination screen on the bus and the coach could be turned by hand inside, and you could change the screens. On the other side was a map of Cleveland with all the bus routes on. And if you wanted a particular bus route, you press the button and the whole route lit up. And that wagon lasted till about 2000, where it disappeared off the face of the earth. But notice the single decker looks a bit like 372, doesn't it? I've got about 12 pictures of that. Next one, yeah, here we have XG9304 again at Lotharmond with Hartlepool BEF28C behind during its period on hire to Lothian when it had a big radiator bumper fitted to it. XG9304 being towed out there, but obviously the motor's running, so it's obviously been working on it. Next. It does look good, that. This is my ambition before I die, is to see all three preserved Middlesbrough buses running Middlesbrough Heritage Service.
There's the good news or the bad news?
What's the bad news?
No, there isn't any bad news.
I had
The good
6
news.
of those, Chris, as you know.
You what?
I had 6 of those.
Yes.
That was of the last batch.
I went to Barton, didn't
And I had 1 chrome radiator
I?
and
Right.
5 painted ones.
All right.
And from time to time there would be change. And number 50 they always had the chrome radiator.
Right.
Whether that's all I had and when it got changed it got put to another bus, I don't know. And the other one that you used to have was 48. And 48 different from them. The batch was 48 and different from them insofar as the bottom quarter panels were floated out.
Right.
Yeah,
Will you
they
do me a
look-
favour
look
sometime?
nicer than them. And they were obviously low bridge, so they were bought for M-bus.
Right.
It didn't last very long, they kept knocking bottom ends out,
Right.
and they were superseded by XG 98, 24, 25 and 26, which were the same bodies, but without the 600 wheels.
Will you do me a favour sometime? Will you write all that down for us so I can put it in archive? Because I know nothing of that. I know very little of that period. You know. Next.
No, XG8 043, that series,
Yeah.
there were 500 wheels, and they were a bloody nuisance, because like our 99, the revs wouldn't die down,
Right.
so they waited forever for the revs to die down. By the time you got the engine speed down to what you wanted, the road speed had matched what it was when you started. So the drivers used to say, leave the effing things in third gear all day,
Right.
and that's one of the faults we had, of course.
Right.
That's at the end, Chris.
Is it? Is that picture of 544 and 106?
Yeah, I can bring that up.
Yeah.
In fact, they ended up on Brambles Farm, did them, the F route.
Right.
Yeah, don't know why Brambles Farm, but yeah.
I've got one more picture to show you, it's not of my cat. That picture. This was taken in flowers just before 106 went off for repaint. 544 there. There it is. Yeah. So that's what it looked like just before it was redone. There is quite a few series of pictures of that during its restoration, but Dave's got most of them. I'd like to put it together in a presentation sometime so we can actually maybe publish it as a booklet. Yeah. Right, well I think John says that's the end, so that's
121 photos.
121
record
photos, that's
time
it.
for you.
yeah. Yeah, normally we're still here at 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's because there's no photos of cats or nasties tonight.
There's no cats, there's no German vehicles.
German vehicles, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it then. So I hope you enjoyed all of that. Thank you very much for staying awake to listen to it, because I sound like Darth Vader.
Six bloody chairs, Chris.
You what? They are, aren't they? Yes, yeah. Yeah, so there we go. Right, thank you.
Said you weren't going to do that.
I didn't say I wasn't going to do that. I said I wasn't going to show any German vehicles. The next slideshow is going to be German staff cars.
I was hoping for you to say it. I thought you had to look like you couldn't see your car or anything. No. What are you in today?
Right. You are? Thanks very much, mate. Anymore?
You're there. You're right here. You're too far
Right
close.
there.
Back on your spot. There, on your perch.
Thanks very much, Rob. Glad you enjoyed it.
Mark says thank you very much. John Hall says thoroughly enjoyed the slideshow and thanks for the live stream.
Excellent. Good. Excellent. Show some cat pictures next time.
No, thank you.
Good.
We will apologise for the dropping out part way through. Nothing we can do about that. The wireless pixies had all got to sleep. They came back.
Did Paul go in Canada?
Jeff says thank you, Chris, most enjoyable. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, Paul Borden was on. Yeah.
So it works. It's good though, isn't it?
Thank you, Paul in Canada.
Yeah. Super. What time are we going on Sunday, John?
I'm not here. I'm in Budapest.
You're where? You're in Budapest. Every time.
Hang on. she's back.
There's the mayor, hence the rush to
£9:30 flight to Manchester, so I need to do like
7 o'clock. Keep in touch.
That's flipping car, yes.
You're not far away, like.
Yeah, so
No, do you know, it was looking a bit dire when we first turned up.
I say you can't fall asleep, well, it's valuable, isn't it? It should be valuable.
I've got the English on the movement there.
Oh, John, are you, John? Voice give you away.
You will keep reminding them there.
On the side. So you're always written on there. Fruit and vegetables.
Get on the website.
Take care. I am actually trying to assemble see a little
You've got to be able to have this one next month. I was just with a sonic whistle on the front of the arm.
wrote a very initially contact with them was
You look at the top.
with our whole
Yeah, the EC group, wasn't it?
The significance of them
Goodbye, world.